What happens when the moment you've waited for arrives with both joy and fear? How does a woman who survived abandonment find the courage to bring new life into this world? Today, witness Tu Tien's most sacred journey as she faces childbirth surrounded by love. Stay with us. The morning sun rose gently over the mountain village, painting the sky in soft shades of amber and gold. Tu Tien stood by the window of their small home, one hand resting on her swollen belly, watching the mist slowly lift from the valley below. It was supposed to be an ordinary day. She had planned to tend to her vegetable garden, maybe harvest some greens to take to the market. But fate had other plans. A sharp pain suddenly gripped her lower abdomen, making her gasp and clutch the windowsill for support. She stood still, breathing slowly, waiting for it to pass. When it did, she tried to convince herself it was nothing, just the baby moving. But deep down, she knew. The time had come. "Jack!" Her voice trembled slightly as she called out to her husband, who was preparing breakfast in the kitchen. "Jack, I think it's happening." Jack dropped the wooden spoon he was holding, his eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and panic. He rushed to her side, his hands immediately supporting her gently. "Are you sure? How do you feel? Should we go now?" Mother Loy, who had been sweeping the front yard, heard the commotion and hurried inside. The moment she saw Tu Tien's face, pale but determined, she understood. Years of experience told her this was the real thing. "We need to get her to the hospital immediately," she said with calm authority, though her heart was racing. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. Jack grabbed the hospital bag they had prepared weeks ago, his hands shaking slightly as he checked for the third time that everything was there. Mother Loy helped Tu Tien into more comfortable clothes, whispering words of encouragement, telling her to breathe, to stay calm, that everything would be all right. Another contraction hit Tu Tien, stronger this time. She gripped Mother Loy's arm, her knuckles turning white. The pain was intense, radiating from her lower back around to her belly. She bit her lip, refusing to cry out, but tears welled in her eyes. "It's okay, my daughter," Mother Loy said softly, stroking her hair. "This pain brings life. You're strong. You've survived so much worse." Jack brought the truck around, and together they helped Tu Tien into the passenger seat. Mother Loy climbed in the back, leaning forward to keep a hand on Tu Tien's shoulder. As they pulled away from their little farm, Tu Tien looked back at the home Jack had built for her, the garden she had cultivated with her own hands, the life they had created together from nothing. The road to the hospital wound through the mountains, narrow and rough in places. Jack drove as carefully as he could, but each bump made Tu Tien wince. She closed her eyes, trying to focus on her breathing, trying to stay calm. But her mind kept drifting back to another time, years ago, when she had been pregnant before, alone and unloved in her first husband's house, terrified and abandoned. How different this was. Jack's hand found hers, squeezing gently, and she squeezed back. Mother Loy's soothing voice came from behind, reciting a prayer for safe childbirth. She wasn't alone anymore. She was loved. She was cherished. And soon, she would hold her baby in her arms. They arrived at the district hospital in a rush of activity. Nurses quickly brought a wheelchair, and Tu Tien was whisked away for examination, while Jack completed the admission paperwork with trembling hands. His mind could barely focus on the forms in front of him. All he could think about was Tu Tien, somewhere in those sterile corridors, in pain, needing him. A doctor emerged after what felt like an eternity, but was only 15 minutes. "She's progressing well," the doctor said with a professional smile. "We're taking her to the delivery room now. You'll need to wait outside. We'll update you regularly." Jack nodded, unable to speak, his throat tight with emotion. He watched as they wheeled Tu Tien down the hallway. She turned her head to look at him one last time, and despite her pain, she smiled. That smile broke his heart and filled it simultaneously. The waiting area was a small room with plastic chairs and fluorescent lighting that buzzed faintly. Jack sat down heavily, his head in his hands. Mother Loy sat beside him, her prayer beads moving through her fingers in a steady rhythm. The sound was oddly comforting. "Ancestors, please watch over my daughter-in-law," Mother Loy whispered. "Grant her strength. Protect the baby. Let them both come through this safely. We ask for your blessings, for your protection, for your mercy." Jack lifted his head, watching his mother pray. Her faith had always been strong, and now he found himself silently echoing her prayers, hoping that somewhere in the universe, someone was listening. Minutes stretched into hours. Jack paced the small room, unable to sit still. Every time footsteps approached in the corridor, he jumped up, hoping for news. Twice nurses passed by, and he asked about Tu Tien. "She's doing fine. It's progressing normally," they said, but gave no other details. His mind wandered back through their journey together. He remembered the first time he saw Tu Tien, thin and weary, seeking shelter in that abandoned hut near his construction site. He remembered her eyes, so full of pain and distrust, yet still holding a spark of hope. He remembered deciding to help her, to build her a small house, to give her a chance at a new life. He never expected to fall in love, but watching her tend her garden, seeing her smile return gradually, witnessing her strength and resilience, he couldn't help himself. And when she finally opened her heart to him, when she agreed to be his wife, it was the happiest day of his life. Now she was giving him the greatest gift of all, a child, a family, a future. A cry of pain echoed faintly from down the hall, and Jack's heart clenched. Was that Tu Tien? He stood up, instinctively moving toward the door, but Mother Loy gently pulled him back. "You must let the doctors work," she said quietly. "Your job now is to have faith." More time passed. A doctor and 2 nurses hurried past the waiting room toward the delivery area, and Jack's anxiety spiked. What was happening? Was something wrong? He wanted to burst through those doors, to be by Tu Tien's side, to hold her hand, to tell her she wasn't alone. Mother Loy continued to pray, her voice growing more fervent. "Please, ancestors, please. She has suffered so much already. Give her this happiness. Let her hold her child. Let her know peace." Jack sat down again, his leg bouncing nervously. He tried to remember everything the childbirth class instructor had told them, but his mind was blank. All he could think about was Tu Tien, enduring pain he couldn't imagine, fighting to bring their child into the world. The clock on the wall seemed to move impossibly slowly. 3 hours had passed since they arrived. How much longer? Was this normal? Should it take this long? Fear crept into his heart, but he pushed it away. Tu Tien was strong. She had survived abandonment, poverty, and heartbreak. She would survive this too. Then, cutting through the heavy silence like a ray of sunshine breaking through storm clouds, they heard it. A cry. A baby's cry. High-pitched, insistent, beautiful. The most beautiful sound Jack had ever heard in his entire life. He leapt to his feet, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might burst from his chest. Mother Loy gasped, her hands flying to her mouth, tears already streaming down her weathered cheeks. They stared at each other for a moment, hardly daring to believe it, and then both rushed to the door. A nurse emerged, her face bright with a smile. "Congratulations! It's a healthy baby girl. Mother and baby are both doing well." Jack felt his knees go weak with relief. A girl. A daughter. Tu Tien was okay. The baby was okay. Everything was okay. He wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. Mother Loy was already crying, thanking the ancestors, thanking the spirits, thanking heaven itself. "Can I see them?" Jack asked, his voice hoarse with emotion. "Give us just a few minutes to get them settled, then you can come in," the nurse replied kindly. Those few minutes felt longer than all the hours of waiting combined. Jack paced again, but this time with nervous excitement rather than anxiety. Mother Loy kept wiping her eyes, murmuring prayers of gratitude. Finally, a nurse beckoned them to follow. The delivery room was bright and warm, and there, on the bed, looking exhausted but radiant, was Tu Tien. Her hair was damp with sweat, her face pale, but her eyes shone with a light Jack had never seen before. And in her arms, wrapped in a soft pink blanket, was their daughter. Jack approached slowly, almost reverently, as if he were approaching something sacred. Because he was. This was the most precious moment of his life. Tu Tien looked up at him and smiled, that same gentle smile that had captured his heart. But now it held something more. Joy. Complete and utter joy. "Meet our daughter," she whispered. Jack looked down at the tiny face peeking out from the blanket. She had Tu Tien's delicate features, a small nose, rosebud lips, and the tiniest fingers he had ever seen. One of those little hands was curled into a fist near her cheek. She was perfect, absolutely perfect. "She's beautiful," Jack breathed, his voice breaking. "Just like her mother." A tear rolled down his cheek, then another. He didn't try to stop them. This was a moment for tears, for overwhelming emotion, for letting love flow freely without restraint. Mother Loy approached the bed, her own tears falling steadily. "Can I hold her?" she asked softly, and Tu Tien carefully transferred the precious bundle into her grandmother's waiting arms. Mother Loy gazed down at her granddaughter with infinite tenderness. "Welcome to our family, little one," she whispered. "You are so loved already. You will never know abandonment. You will never know neglect. You will grow up surrounded by love and care and everything good in this world." Jack sat on the edge of the bed and took Tu Tien's hand. She looked exhausted, as if she had climbed a mountain, which in a way she had. "How do you feel?" he asked gently. "Tired," she admitted with a small laugh. "But happy. So incredibly happy, Jack. I never thought I could feel this way. After everything that happened before, I thought I might never have this. A family. A real family." "You have it now," Jack said firmly, bringing her hand to his lips. "You have me. You have my mother. And now you have our daughter. We are your family, Tu Tien. Forever." She smiled, fresh tears sliding down her cheeks. But these were tears of pure joy. She had traveled such a long road to reach this moment, from the depths of despair to the heights of happiness. And now, holding her daughter, surrounded by people who truly loved her, Tu Tien finally felt complete. From the darkest valleys of abandonment and pain, Tu Tien has climbed to the mountain peak of joy and fulfillment. Her journey reminds us that our past does not define our future, that love can heal the deepest wounds, and that hope can bloom even in the harshest conditions. Today, a new life entered the world, but more than that, a family was born, not just through blood, but through choice, through kindness, through unwavering commitment to each other. Jack chose to love a broken woman and help her heal. Mother Loy chose to embrace Tu Tien as her own daughter, and Tu Tien chose to trust again, to love again, to believe in happiness again. The miracle of childbirth is not just in the baby's first breath, but in the transformation it brings to everyone who witnesses it. In that hospital room, surrounded by love and gratitude, 3 people became a family of 4, bound together by something stronger than any hardship they might face. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with others who believe in second chances and the power of love. We'll see you in the next chapter of Jack and Tu Tien's story as they navigate the beautiful challenges of parenthood together.